Hey beauties, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm talking all about the new Blanc makeup collection that just launched by Chanel. It's called Le Fleur et l'eau. I had my doubts that it would even make it to the States, so I'm incredibly happy to announce that it is finally here. Yesterday, I visited my local beauty boutique where I had the chance to see everything in person, swatch it on my arm. Definitely some surprises, and then a moment ago before I sat down to film, I noticed that it is now available on Chanel.com. It's shipping out to stores later sometime in March. The entire collection is limited edition except for the Le Blanc Rosy Light Drops. I imagine that if these are really popular, at some point they will be sent out to stores, but if this is a product that you had your eye on and you don't live by a boutique, it is now available on Chanel.com. And of course, everything will be linked down below. Before we dive right in, if you're new here, welcome. I'm so happy to have you. This is our Pink Sparkly Bubble on YouTube, where we talk about luxury, beauty, fragrance, everything glam in between. So I hope you'll join our community by subscribing, and don't forget to hit the notification bell. Let me start by saying that I did not pick up a lot from this collection, only the Rosy Light Drops and the new blush, simply because the colors are very similar to what we've seen released by every other makeup brand. They're beautiful, and I did have a chance to play around with them, so I'm still going to go through each item, share my thoughts. The entire collection was inspired by nature, simplistic radiance, and when you look at the photos from the mood board, I think they did a really good job bringing it to life. These are the colors, and this is the collection that we think of when we think of spring. Unlike the mauves and the desert hues from Spring Summer, the Warm Memories palette, this is truly iconic spring. The two new eyeshadow palettes, 358 Eau Fille de l'Eau and 356 Eau Fille de Fleur, both retail for $65. They're of course limited edition, and they come with this beautiful camellia effect embossed on top. The only palette that I was able to see is the 356 Eau Fille de Fleur. When I saw pictures of this palette, I assumed that it was going to be very similar to Camellia, Cambone, and it is not. This palette truly blew me away, and I am still so torn about not picking this up. It is so soft and beautiful, and these shades are not meant to be bold, intense, incredibly pigmented. It's more of a watercolor effect. The shadows in this palette are iridescent, so if you use a fluffy brush, it's going to be a very light, translucent effect. If you use your fingers, you can get a little bit more of a color payoff. That middle purple shade blew me away. I almost purchased the palette just for that shade. I stopped myself and I quickly came back to reality because I remembered last year's spring palette. This is 316 Cristal de Printemps. I used it today to create this look because it was sort of similar to this new palette. However, I have not touched this palette since last spring. I love these colors, but I don't really grab them that often, so I simply can't justify purchasing the new palette, even though it is even more gorgeous. So if you didn't purchase the palette from last spring, if you haven't purchased a lot of similar palettes, I would recommend these colors. Of the two eyeshadow palettes, the 356 is the only one I've seen featured in any of the campaign photos. And you can tell on the model it's a very soft look, but it's incredibly feminine and she looks gorgeous. If you love that camellia effect, there's also a lip palette. This retails for $60 and it comes with 4 existing shades of the Rouge Allure lipstick. I love this idea, love the concept of a lip palette. I'm not sure how practical it is. During holiday 2 years ago, I believe, they came out with a lip palette. I still have mine and it is barely touched. And I remember being at the counter and months later, there were still lip palettes. It was the last item to go. So as much as I love the idea, I don't think there's a really wide audience for this. The colors they chose are really pretty, very spring appropriate, but chances are 1 or 2 of those shades are going to be your favorite, and then there's probably at least one that you will barely use. In the photo, it looks like it comes with a lip brush. I don't remember seeing one yesterday on the display. Hopefully it does. Otherwise, you would have to use your fingers, and that could get really messy, and it sort of cancels out the convenience factor. If you're more traditional when it comes to lipstick, there are 2 new Rouge Allure Infusions and 2 Rouge Coco Flash lipsticks. They all retail for $38. In the Rouge Allure Infusions, there's 830 Fleur de Lotus. This is a very interesting coral, peachy, pinky red. I'm really not sure how to categorize this color, and it doesn't really go with the rest of the color scheme in the collection. So this one threw me, and for that reason, I sort of counted it out. 832 Pivoine is a bright fuchsia, very spring forward, so much fun. I did try this lipstick shade on, and if you love a bright, bold lip, this is going to be right up your alley. My favorite Rouge Coco Flash is the 112 Eau de Rose. This is a beautiful, cool-toned pink. Of course, it's very sheer. I may have to go back for that. And then 114 On Day. This is a bright coral. Both pink nail polishes are really pretty. 741 Fleur de Peche is a frosty pink. And then 743 Petal is a beautiful, kind of blue-based pink. They also launched a new limited edition eye gloss. These retail for $36. This shade is almost an iridescent pearl. This is a definite skip for me. I consider the eye gloss to be a luxury fail. I picked up both shades that they launched last cruise collection, and they still sit in my drawer untouched. They look beautiful in photographs, they're great on models, they are not practical, and they are so messy. And that brings us to the last two products which I have here to show. The Blanc Rosy Light Drops retail for $50. This is the only product that is not limited edition. However, for now, it is going to be exclusive to Chanel.com and the beauty boutiques. This is a sheer and lightweight highlighting fluid that's buildable for a custom-made radiance. And this is the new limited edition blush, 330 Rose Pétillant, a gorgeous pink with light shimmer. And now let me show you how I apply them both. I'm starting with a clean face, so all I have on right now is moisturizer, and I want to demonstrate a few different ways you can use a liquid illuminator. So I'm taking my Blanc Rosy Light Drops, and on the back of my hand, I'm going to mix this in with my primer. I'm going to use any primer I have on hand, so this happened to be on the table. This is the Laura Mercier Pure Canvas Supercharged Essence. You can use any primer, and I'm going to do equal parts. I've applied that to the center points of the face, and now I'm simply going to blend it out. Because the Rosy Light Drops are so sheer and so thin, you can apply them all over the face, and it's not going to be too light, too brightening. It's not going to give you any sort of ghost effect. If your skin is particularly dry or dull, this product is going to be your best friend. With just primer and a little bit of the light drops, I already look dewy and radiant, so the next way you can use it is to mix it directly into your foundation. Again, I'm just using a foundation that happened to be here on the table, and I'm going to do about 2 parts to 1 part. So I pumped a few pumps of foundation, and I'm going to do maybe half a pump. And you can see how different the formula and texture is. The foundation is far more thick and creamy. The Rosy Light Drops are really thin and lightweight. By mixing the light drops into the foundation, not only am I going to boost radiance, but it also just helps the formula lay better on the skin. It's not going to be as cakey, and I'm adding glow without adding oil. My absolute favorite glowy girl makeup hack is to mix a liquid illuminator in with my concealer. There is no point in trying to achieve radiance and glow if you're gonna go in with a super matte concealer, set it with powder, and then you have this dusty, dry, creepy under eye. It makes no sense. The key is to get the parts right, so you want to use the smallest amount of each. Now that I've applied my concealer, I'm going to take half a pump of the Blanc Rosy Light Drops. On the back of my hand, I'm going to pick that up with my concealer brush, and then I'm going to blend. Now my entire complexion looks luminous. My under eyes look really hydrated and creamy. And even though I am going to set with a little bit of light powder, it's going to make a huge difference. The makeup is now coming together and it's time to get into this new blush. So this is the 330 Rose Pétillante. When you look closely in the pan, you can tell it has a sheen. There's some luminosity to it, but it almost looks baked, as if it would come off very sheer, and it doesn't. It packs quite a punch. Very rosy. Blush changes everything. I swear I was looking dead before I applied that blush. I thought, ooh, I don't know if this makeup is gonna end up looking very nice. All I needed was blush. The last step is to apply our final glow. So I'm just going to pump a little bit of this out on my hand, and I'm going to tap it directly on the high points of the face. Even by itself, if you just tap a little bit, it looks very pretty. It is such a soft, subtle sheen. Beautiful. And it's so thin that it doesn't look chunky or cakey. It's far more natural than a powder highlight, even a thick cream, because it's more of a thin liquid, really. It's beautiful. It actually reminds me a lot of the Charlotte Tilbury Beauty Light Wands, but a softer version. Softer, more versatile version, I should say. Ooh. Overall, I think the collection is beautiful. It's so ethereal and feminine, very spring-like. I sincerely hope that eyeshadow palette doesn't come back to haunt me in my dreams, or nightmares, I should say. But if it does, I'm just gonna force myself to look at this palette from last year and use this instead. For me, the two highlights or standouts were the blush and the liquid illuminator. The blush is just a very pretty shade. If you love blush, I think you could easily add this to your collection. If you already own a lot of blushes, this is an easy skip for you. I think the color's really pretty. I've been on a blush kick. This will probably be the last blush I add to my collection for a while. The real star of the show is the Blanc Rosy Light Drops. As soon as I saw photos of these circulating on social media, I knew I had to have them. It's available already in Canada, and my husband has a work trip next month, and I was convinced that I was going to either pack myself in the suitcase and go with him, or I was going to force him to go out and hunt for these. I'm so glad that it didn't come down to that. Now that these are available on Chanel.com, I have always been a huge fan of the Soleil Tan de Chanel Liquid Illuminator Drops in the shade Sunkissed. I know those are going away. They're being reformulated, expanding the shade range. We'll all know soon enough, because that should be part of the summer launch. This is the perfect alternative, something great to use in the meantime. I love these drops. They are so versatile. It's a beautiful product, and they kind of solved the only issue there was with the other one by putting it in a pump. This is so ideal. It's the perfect packaging, no issue getting the product out. You can kind of squeeze a full pump, you can squeeze a half pump. You truly can customize your glow, and they give a far greater impact than I initially thought they would when I swatched it on my hand. This is now going to be part of my beauty routine every single day. It's a monthly favorite, it's going to be a yearly favorite. I'm just so happy that Chanel came out with a product like this. I've always loved liquid illuminators. I was sad to see the Sunkissed go. I'm sure they're gonna come out with something great, but what sets this apart is that it gives a soft, subtle radiance, but it's not oily, it's so thin. The texture is just truly beautiful. I highly recommend. 10 out of 10. And that completes today's review. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Leave me your comments, your questions down below. As always, I will be linking everything mentioned, everything that I have today on my face, down in the description box for your convenience. And for more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell.